All right, everybody, welcome into another episode of the NFL Seekers podcast. Today, we're each going to be ranking the top 32 quarterbacks going into the 2023 season. So it's going to be an exciting one, interesting one. You excited, Josh?
Yeah, quarterback's my favorite position. This is the most interesting position, the most important position on the field. And there's a lot of good quarterbacks in the AFC, I should say.
Yeah,
But I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about these guys and rank them.
yeah. Most of the top 10 will be AFC quarterbacks, but yeah, quarterback is a really controversial and popular position. So I'm sure no one will hate us after this.
All right, well, let's should we get right on into it? We got
Yeah,
30.
there's a lot to talk about. We each got to get 32 guys in. So let's get right into our list. And I'm feeling pretty good about my list, man. I'm feeling like pretty confident and I'm feeling like you can't change my mind on my list. I like mine.
I'm sure we'll differ in a few areas.
All right. Well, we'll start out with my number 32, and that is Mr. Sam Howell. Um, it's nothing against him. I liked him coming out. It's just his situation's not the best. I like Eric Bieniemy coming in. It's interesting, but it's just he hasn't really played and he's got the least experience of any of the starting quarterbacks. It's pretty much as simple as that. He has potential. I liked him. I like his receivers, but we'll have to see.
Yeah. No, yeah, I have Sam Howell low too. I'm gonna have my number 32 is actually gonna be Anthony Richardson. And it's not that I think he'll finish 32, one of the worst. I don't think he's necessarily he didn't have a great college season passing, I should say. He's not very developed. I do think he's going into a good system, and I'm excited to see what Mr. Shane Steichen can do with him. But it's just the lack of production and raw talent that I just have to see it first. So that's why I feel comfortable having him here at 32.
That's fair. I chose to go the route where I believe in these rookies, so I have them a little bit higher, but I understand you going the route where you have the rookies at the bottom because they haven't played. It makes total sense.
Hmm.
We'll go into my number 31, and that's Baker Mayfield. I have him right next to Sam Howell in the same tier. They both got to prove it, man, and it's looking like they're not going to be starting in 2024. Let's just say that. So they've got a lot to prove, and a lot's against them.
Or
But I
Baker.
mean, Baker is going into a comfortable offense in Tampa. He's got some good weapons, so you never know. You never know.
Yeah, I think he's got to prove it this year for sure. I'm excited to see if he can have a bounce back here because Baker had a fantastic rookie season. Actually, even broke the touchdown record for quarterback in his rookie season. Of course, it was broken the next year by my guy, but I think he's still got a lot of potential and he's got that swagger. And I think he does deserve to be maybe a little bit higher. I know I feel like we're disrespecting him a little bit. I have him pretty low too, but he has to have a bounce back year and prove it. My 31's gonna be, let's see, Mr. Sam Howell. So
Okay.
I have him just one spot below you. Again, yeah, it's just a total prove it. I do, however, think I favor Sam Howell's situation a little bit more. I do think he's going into an offense with loaded receivers, and I'm curious to see how Eric Bieniemy does as the coach over there. It's definitely interesting as the offensive coordinator to see what he can do if he can bring some of that Patrick Mahomes magic. But I did like Sam Howell coming out. He's just got to prove it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. He's a good runner too, so he's an exciting player. But we'll get into my number 30, and that's someone in the same tier as the other two for me, and that's Desmond Ritter. He's got a lot to prove as well. He's got a great offense, so I have him over the other two because definitely in the best situation. Arthur Smith's a great coach, and he's in the best scheme, so he has the best chance. But I don't love Ritter as the prospect as the player. I don't think he's the greatest quarterback. So
Yeah, I actually have Desmond Ritter two at 30. Yeah, I wasn't much impressed with him last year. I do think there's a little bit of room to develop, and I do like his coaches, and I do like he's gonna have a really friendly running game around him, which should help him a lot. But yeah, I don't know if the talent's all there. I don't know if the mind's all there. It's just he's very unproven. And that's kind of why we have him here. It's just the uncertainty, but I don't know. He doesn't have that drop. Like he didn't go out there in any games last year and wow us by any means. It was just very mid play, and he's got a lot to prove. But with a full off season, 1 year experience in the NFL. I'm excited to see what he does, but I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be very impressive.
Fair enough. And then I got a new tier going into my number 29 quarterback, and that is Anthony Richardson. I'm getting into the rookies, and I actually am higher on Anthony Richardson. I'm excited about him and the Colts outlook this year, and I think he's going to be really good. And if not this year, he's going to be a good star quarterback in the NFL. But I do think it will take some time. So I have him lower than the rest of the quarterbacks or the rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. He should definitely be the lowest rookie quarterback just because the uncertainty was passing, but athleticism is all there. Um, my number 29 is gonna be Baker. I couldn't put him much higher than this, even though I'd like to, because I do like Baker Mayfield. I think he's a stud. And I think he's he's kind of got that mentality, that dog mentality that I like out of a quarterback. I think he's a smart dude. His athleticism and his height and everything does kind of hurt him. But he's a stud. I think he's got the swagger. I don't think he's going to be very good, but I think he's definitely a lower tier quarterback.
That's fair. And if you want me to change your tiers on your list, just let me know. But we'll get into my number 28 quarterback, and that's Jordan Love. I don't know if I'm high or low on him here at 28, but I was high on him coming out of college. I liked him a lot coming out of Utah State, and other than throwing fades, which he was weirdly really bad at, he's pretty solid at everything, and I think he's a pretty accurate quarterback, and I'm pretty excited about him and Christian Watson's connection, but he still has a lot to prove. This is his first year starting, and he's one of the more unproven quarterbacks, so we got to have him low.
He's definitely got all the upside, but he is definitely so unproven. Like most of this lower tier list is just a lot of unproven guys. But Jordan Love, I'm excited. He sat behind Aaron Rodgers, for the first, was it 3-4 years of his career? And I think he's got an opportunity to be a stud. I mean, he's got the arm talent. He's a smart kid. And even at Utah State, I mean, he kind of changed the culture of that program, and he was so exciting to watch there. We were so excited to see him come out of the draft. Obviously, kind of forget about him just because he's been a backup for the last few years. But I think he's got an opportunity to impress us this year. But my number 28 here is going to be Mr. Ryan Tannehill. And I have him ranked. I mean, he's probably should be a little bit higher. I just think he'll get benched at some point this year. I think they're going to go with Will Levis. And I think it's just we're getting to the twilight years of Ryan Tannehill. He's just kind of so average. I don't think he deserves to be a starting quarterback. There's not much upside with him. He really is just what you throw out there if you can't get anything better. And I think they're going to have to go with the upside and bench him somewhat soon and put in Will Levis. So, but as of right now, he's the starter, but I'm leaving him low because I don't think he will be very far into the season.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's 34 years old already, so it's probably his last year as a starter. I agree. I have him a little bit higher, but we'll get into my number 27, and that's Mac Jones. Not too much to say about Mac Jones, but I mean, Patriots fans were like out on him last year, and they wanted Bailey Zappi to start. I don't know about that. I like Mac Jones more than Patriots fans, I guess, because he's not that bad. He's pretty good. He's solid. I think he's right there with Jordan Love. They're similar prospects, so I'm interested to see if they get DeAndre Hopkins. I think Mac Jones and Hopkins would have a pretty good connection.
Yeah, I definitely think Mac Jones is just lacking a lot of receiver talent too.
Yeah.
But I think he's a guy that can go out there and lead you to the playoffs and have a good team with him. I don't feel like there's a pass he can't throw, and I feel like he's a pretty solid, well built guy, and I feel like he's pretty smart too. But there definitely needs to be some improvement from him, especially from last year. But I agree, I'm a little higher on him too. Actually, I'm a little higher on my list. But my number 27 here is going to be Mr. CJ Stroud. And I'd like to have CJ Stroud higher. It's just the rookie thing. Unproven. We don't know what he's going to do. I'd like to see the Texans add a little bit more receiver talent. Maybe a veteran, DeAndre Hopkins, please go back. But I do like his coaching staff. I do like the system. It's just a prove it in the NFL type of thing to me, which I think he will. And I think we'll have him higher on this list next year.
Yep. Perfect transition. I have him at 26. So I love CJ Stroud, and I love the culture that the Texans are building. And I think DeMeco Ryans is going to have CJ Stroud playing pretty good next year. And I think they've got a lot more weapons this year. And I think I put Stroud above some more experienced quarterbacks because I really do believe in him. So I'm
Yeah,
excited.
he's a stud. And then my number 26 right here is going to be Mr. Jordan Love. Um, and it's kind of another thing, the only reason he's really low is because it's just we got to see it. We got to see it first. But yeah, like you said a little earlier, that Jordan Love Christian Watson connection is could be pretty special. So I'm excited to see that. I think he's ready for the task. I think he sat behind Rodgers long enough, and I think he was a quarterback that actually needed to develop and sit behind a veteran and learn from him. But all the upside in the world for Jordan Love. I'm so excited and I'm rooting for him this year.
Yeah, that last tier of quarterbacks is definitely a tier that needs to prove themselves. So they all have a little bit to prove, but we'll get into a new tier, starting with, for me, Ryan Tannehill, the 34-year-old quarterback. I think he still has one good year left. If they can bring in DeAndre Hopkins, I think that they can be a pretty decent team with Mike Vrabel coaching them up. They're always in every game, and Derrick Henry's still there. I think that he has one more season, and he's a pretty solid quarterback. It is crazy. He's already 34, though.
Yeah, just definition of average to me. That's where Ryan Tannehill will always be. He can kind of win. You can win you some games. You're never going to be great with him. They need it. They need to get off him as fast as they can, in my opinion. Just start that Will Levis hype.
I love the Will
Got
Levis
upside.
pick. We both loved Will Levis as
Yeah,
a prospect, so that's exciting.
yeah,
I
it
agree with
is.
that.
All right, my number 25 is going to be Mr. Jimmy G, Jimmy
Okay.
Garoppolo. He just doesn't excite me. I feel like he's kind of a product of San Francisco, all those years. But he can go out there and he can play average football. He can do your dump offs. He can do your low intermediate routes. But you know what you're getting from Jimmy Garoppolo. There's not a lot of upside. There's not a lot of excitement. But he's just going to go out there, do his job, and it's not going to be anything flashy. It's just going to be very conservative, short, low routes. And I think he will regress with the Raiders, even though he's got Devontae Adams. He's going to be the best receiver of his career. But I think he's going to regress because I feel like he thrived behind the Shanahan system, which most quarterbacks do. And so I think we're going to see a little bit of a drop off from Jimmy.
Yep. You have Jimmy G at 25. I have him at 24, and I think that suits him perfectly. I think that kind of describes Jimmy G as a quarterback. 24, 25, that's just who he is. He's nothing too dangerous, but if you have a great team around him, he can definitely do good. Will the Raiders be that great team this year? Probably not, but I think that he can be decent. I think that he'll keep the team afloat, and he'll be right around where Derek Carr was.
For
Tier
sure.
24.
My 24 is going to be Mr. Mac Jones, and I'm a little bit higher on him than most people are, but I don't see a lot of hate for Mac Jones. I mean, he does make some stupid decisions, but he doesn't have a great surrounding cast receiver wise. He hasn't. He doesn't have that flashy guy that can throw it up to. But he really is kind of an underrated quarterback in my opinion. He's a pretty smart dude. He can go out there. He can make all the reads. I don't really think there's a throw he can't make. He can throw the deep ball. He's not super athletic, and that's kind of where it hurts him. He's not a very fast dude. He's not going to make you miss. But he can go out there, and I think he's just a bigger, solid, better version of Jimmy G, which I would rather have Mac Jones on my team than Jimmy G. Kind of how I feel. Younger, a little bit more built, and I feel like has a little bit bigger arm to make the throws.
Yeah, I totally understand you having him in that tier with Jimmy G. I think he's going to take that step up this year into that tier for me. So I agree. My number 23 is Derek Carr. Not too much to say there, but it is exciting that he's in a new offense with the Saints. They have great talents. Kamara, Olave are going to benefit with Carr for sure, but I don't know how high the ceiling is. So I got him at 23 right next to Jimmy G.
Yeah, that's exactly great transition to me. I have him at 23 as well. He's just right in that same tier. There's not much to say about Derek Carr. You kind of know what you're getting out of him. It's nothing special. I feel like he does have a little bit more upside and a little bit better arm than the Jimmy G. But he's just right around that tier, and it's just it fits him so well.
Yep. And then speaking of that tier, right next to him, I got Kenny Pickett, a lot younger of a player, but similar in play styles. And I was never too high on Kenny Pickett coming out in college. I was just kind of meh on him. He's a good quarterback, and he did impress me last year. He's good. I think the Steelers really rallied around him, and they love him. And I think there's a good culture going around there, and I think they're going to be good this year. So I'm buying into the Kenny Pickett hype, and I think he can definitely finish in top 20.
I have him a little bit higher. I am buying into the hype too. I think he's going to take a big step. He kind of excites me. He's got the tools, he's got the legs, he can run. I'll talk about him a little bit later. But my number 22, I'm sorry, Dan, but it's going to be Mr. Russell Wilson.
Wow.
And it's purely because of age and, coming off of 2 poor seasons. I think he can turn around. I think he's got the coaching staff now to turn around. If anyone's going to help Russell Wilson's going to be Sean Payton, and he's got all the talent around him. But until he proves it, until he has a bounce back year, he's going to be in this tier for me because he was just flat out not very impressive last year, and the Broncos should have been a lot better team. But I kind of blame him for holding him back, and maybe a little bit on the definitely on the coaching staff too. But it's been 2 bad seasons from Russell Wilson, and I need to see more from him because he could be a Hall of Fame quarterback. I want to see that tier of play come back.
Yeah, I understand it. That's the tier that he played in last year. That's how he performed, and he needs to prove it. And I have him a little bit higher because I do think that the coaching staff is great coming in. So I'll talk about him a little bit later. But my number 21 is Brock Purdy, a player that's being hyped up a lot. He won a playoff game. He looks really good, and he's in a perfect situation. I think he will jump up these rankings next year. But can I say he's a top 20 NFL quarterback already? I don't know. There's some really good quarterbacks. He's right there, obviously. He's close, but I don't know. He might be overhyped a little bit right now.
Yeah, he played out of his mind last year for sure. I mean, it definitely clouds your vision when he wins his first 8 games in the NFL, which is pretty impressive, and goes to the playoffs, and just comes out of nowhere. I love Brock Purdy. I'm going to have him a little bit higher. My 21 right here is going to be Mr. Bryce Young, and it's just a rookie thing. I think he's one of the more, out of all the quarterbacks, he's the most NFL ready. And I think he's going to be an absolute stud. I couldn't have him in my top 20 just because stature, frame, the system. He has to prove it to me. I think he can be good. I think Frank Wright's a good coach for him. I like the additions of Adam Thielen coming in there and a veteran presence for him at receiver. Miles Sanders is going to be good. I'm really excited about the Panthers, but again, I couldn't justify having a rookie in my top 20.
That's fair. I'll go into my number 20, and I was torn about him and Purdy. They're pretty close, but I do have Justin Fields just in the tier above because of that rushing ability. It's just so special, man. And I do think he will take a little bit of a step up as a passer with the better situation, the better O-line, and the better weapons around him. I love DJ Moore. I think Justin Fields will take a little bit of a step up. What do I think he'll be incredible? Clearly not, because I have Bryce Young ahead of him, and I probably would have just taken Bryce Young if I was the Bears, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, I think Justin Fields is good, and his rushing is incredible.
Oh, 100%. I'm a little bit higher on Fields. I think he's going to take a big step forward this year. I'm excited. I'll talk about him here in a second. But my number 20 is going to be Brock Purdy right here. That's how I feel he played. I mean, he went out there, he did everything he needed to do to win for the 49ers, but it scares me because these quarterbacks, I feel like, are just such a system of Kyle Shanahan. I feel like he could take the worst quarterback and make him, look top 20, even top 15. But he did go out there and he played good, and he played good football. And I think they really rallied around him, the 49ers. And I'm super excited to see him in year 2. It's kind of a prove it year for me, to see where he goes. But I'm super excited about Brock Purdy.
Yep. And then my number 19 I just mentioned was Bryce Young. I'm really high on the guy, and I just loved his film coming out. I was just so high on him, and I thought he really had flashes of Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow, which is just such high praise. And I think he's instantly, as a rookie, day one, going to be a top 20 quarterback, and I think he's going to be working his way up those ranks every week. He's just such a great leader, and just he's never failed. And I have so much faith in Bryce Young to do good.
Preach. He's like a Joe Burrow 2.0, a little smaller, but so NFL ready, and such a good pocket mover, and he's got such a good coach to start the NFL in. So my number 19 right here is going to be Mr. Kenny Pickett. I think he's a top 20 quarterback. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers really rallied around him at the end of the year, and I think he played some really good football down the stretch. And he was able to play a little bit more loose and free, and it looked like it was starting to snap for him right there at the end of the year. So I'm super excited to see him. He's got a Hall of Fame coach and Mike Tomlin coaching him. He's got some great weapons around him, and I think they're going to take a big step forward this year. I think they had one of the better drafts in the NFL. It was very underrated. Getting Broderick Jones, Darnell Washington. I mean, that's gonna be excited. I'm super excited to see those two added to that offense.
So you like Kenny Pickett a little bit more than Purdy, huh?
I do. I think I like the physical stature and the body type and the athleticism just a little bit more than Purdy. And I don't feel like he's such a product of Shanahan. And the Shanahan tree, freaks me out because he makes people look really good, better than they are.
Yeah, he's definitely in the better situation, but they're both in great situations. So.
For sure, for sure.
All right, my number 18 is someone that I kind of have here out of respect for what he's done. But Matthew Stafford, he definitely could come back this year and be good with Cooper Kupp coming back. Won a Super Bowl just a few years ago, and he was great, but definitely was on the downfall even before his injury. Hopefully he can be better, but the Rams are going to be a pretty bad team this year, so I think 18 is around where I feel comfortable having him. I don't think I want him any higher than this year.
Yeah, I totally get that. I feel like he was at such a high level 2 years ago. Obviously, it's dropped off now because the Rams created this, team that you couldn't last. It was a team built to win the Super Bowl. Then they succeeded, and Matthew Stafford was the beneficiary of that, and he deserved it. He's been in the league a long time, and he was always a stud with the Lions, and he's been a really good quarterback. But yeah, right at 18 feels exactly right, which I'm going to have him at 18 here too, because it is just that's right where Matthew Stafford is, kind of middle of the pack. It doesn't wow you, but I mean, if he has a good team, he's gonna win you a Super Bowl like he proved 2 years ago. But I think he's in the twilight years of his career, and it's just his play is going to go down.
Yep. And then at 17, speaking of someone that had a down year, Russell Wilson for the Broncos. I will say I have him a little bit higher than you because I do have some optimism that if there's anyone that can fix Russ, it's Sean Payton, and that there's a lot of talent on that offense, and it gets me a little bit excited. I like all of the Broncos need to be good is just Russ to do decent. So hopefully Russ can figure something out. The Broncos hopes rely on it, and hopefully Sean Payton can get him to go, but hopefully he can play better than Geno.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, for sure. You don't want to have that as your ending careers. You got traded, and the guy who's your backup comes and outperforms you.
We've seen enough memes.
And Dan, did you ever get the Danger Witch? Maybe if you had got the Danger Witch, you would have played better. Just my number 17 here is going to be Mr. Deshaun Watson, and it's low for him as a talented player, but he was so bad last year, and we know the talent that he is, and he's a top 10 quarterback when he's right. But he's been out of the NFL for so long, and he finally comes back, and he didn't do anything that was impressive to me last year. He played very mediocre football, but I hope we're going to see a big step forward because he is a top 10 quarterback when his mind's right and when he's right. I also think the Browns are kind of a cursed organization too, which doesn't help. but I think 17's here until he proves that he's still that guy, which we saw his rookie year and his when he was on the Texans, but we got to see it back again.
That's crazy low for me, man. I'll talk about him way later. That's crazy. I love Deshaun Watson as a quarterback. He's so good. I can't believe that.
I understand.
All right, that's crazy.
It's just I'm that guy. I got to see it. I mean, how many was he out of the NFL for 2 years? Was it 2 years that the lawsuit went on, and then a third year?
Or I guess two technically, yeah. One with the Browns.
Yeah, yep. One with the Browns. Yep. But yeah, that's just I feel comfortable having him about right there, just because he's got to prove it to me again, which he didn't look very good last year.
All right, I think he will. 16, Geno Smith for me. I have him one spot ahead of Russell Wilson. He was straight up better than Russell Wilson last year, and Russ is gonna have to prove it, like you said. Geno has a lot of weapons, and I think even with Jackson Smith-Njigba coming in, he's going to be even better this year, and they're going to just have a lot of continuity on that offense. And I like the Seahawks and Geno Smith's outlook.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. I think Geno Smith, he's ready to prove it again. He's kind of a hungry, motivated dude, and he played good football. He was like, gosh, I mean, just in like stats wise, even though this doesn't mean anything, but like I think he was like quarterback 7 in fantasy, which was just insane. He's putting up numbers, he's throwing touchdowns, he's throwing yards. He was making the Seahawks look good, which is exciting to see him go into year 2. My number 16 right here is gonna be Mr. Jared Goff. Um, I think he played some pretty good football too. He had some really good stretches. I really like the offense and the team that the Lions are building. There, I'm so excited to see them. I mean, and I always preach their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson. I mean, he's just an absolute freaking stud, and he just designed some of the most exciting routes in the NFL. And their team is just so exciting. And I think Jared Goff's going to have a similar season to what he did last year.
Yeah. Speaking of Jared Goff, I have him at 15, and just what a season did he have last year, and what a connection did he have with Ben Johnson, and one more year with Ben Johnson as the offensive coordinator. Just it's brilliant, and I love the Lions outlook this year. They're one of the most hyped up teams, and for good reason. It's exciting thinking about the Lions, and Jared Goff has a lot of weapons, and Jameson Williams is only out for 6 weeks, so don't count out their passing offense. They were the number 4 offense last year, and they're going to be right up there this year too. So I'm really excited for Jared Goff.
Preach. If there's any team I'm excited to watch this year, it's the Lions. They excite me. The coaches excite me. The team excites me, and they had a really good draft too, even though it was a weird draft. And they should pick Brian Branch at 12 and should have picked Jahmyr Gibbs at 45 or whatever. But you just swap those around. You're like, hey, it's not a bad draft.
And they brought in Hendon Hooker, so that's going to motivate Jared Goff, and he's going to play better. So
100%. 100%. So right here, number 15 is where I'm going to have Mr. Geno Smith. Like we said, he played the best brand of football he's ever played last year. Don't write off Geno Smith because he's not going to write back. But he's a fun player. He played good for Seattle last year. I mean, he was really like a top 10 quarterback, but I feel good having him at 15 because he's got to prove it. He's got to prove that he can do it 2 years in a row. But there's no reason he can't. I mean, that offense is absolutely stacked. They got probably one of the best trios in the NFL, and they got 2 bell cow running backs and a awesome offensive line. The Seahawks have really revamped and used that Russell Wilson trade compensation and really built a good team. So I think they're going to take a step forward, and I think Geno could be back in his top 10 passer rating and all that stuff too. So I think he's got high upside this year.
Yep. And then at 14, I've got Daniel Jones, who just took an incredible step up last year with Brian Daboll coming in. He would just play so much more safe and better with the ball and careful, and completely opposite of Josh Allen, how he played last year. He just was pretty impressively safe with the football and didn't fumble. And I like Daniel Jones a lot. And with Darren Waller coming in, I'm pretty excited about the Giants' outlook and their offense. So I like Daniel Jones and him and Goff.
100% preach. My number 14 is going to be Mr. Justin Fields. I'm quite a bit higher on him than you. But I think Justin Fields is really going to take another step forward this year. I mean, he's done it his past 2 years. The Bears are building around him. They just got DJ Moore, who I think is going to significantly help Justin Fields. They got Darnell Wright, my sleeper of the draft, who's just a mean dog offensive lineman. And they really improved this year, and I think they're building a good thing there in Chicago, and I'm excited to see it through this year because I think Justin Fields is going to continue to keep taking steps forward, and I think maybe one day he'll be top 10 quarterback because all the talent's there. He's one of the most athletic, fast quarterbacks in the NFL, and there's no reason if he develops as a passer a little bit more, he can't be a top 10 quarterback.
Love it. And then at 13, I've got the Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. I'm really excited about him this year, and I think all the training camp videos are a really good sign that he's healthy. And I mean, we saw last year he was really good, albeit he just threw slants to Hill and Waddle every play, but he was really efficient at doing so, and he was unbelievably efficient, honestly. And when he was healthy, I think people were kind of counting him off, and he was being a little bit slept on. I think Tua might not be taken as seriously as he probably should be. When he's healthy, he can deliver the ball to just about any place on the field, and he's really efficient, like I said. So he'll get the ball on place, on target, on time. It'll be there. So I like Tua.
Yeah, great transition to me having Tua at 13 too. Felt like that was a pretty fair spot for him to be at. But yeah, Tua made me laugh. Yeah, I mean, it really, well, most of his production did come off of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle slants, but then he did make a lot of impressive throws, and he could. And there's no throw he really can't make. It does scare me, his concussions and his injury history. But he did look like he put on some weight, and it looks like, he's going to be a little bit more thicker and durable this year. But yeah, I think this is about the right tier and the right spot for Tua, because I don't think he's got that top 10 wow factor, but he definitely did show us that he can be, a top 15, more elite quarterback when he's got his receivers and he's healthy and that offense is running right.
Yep. Hopefully he stays healthy.
Mm.
12, I've got Kirk Cousins, someone who was playing really good last year. The Vikings were, in my opinion, the most lucky team in the NFL last year with how many one possession games they won. But that doesn't take away from how Kirk Cousins played. He was really efficient and he played good and had a great connection with Justin Jefferson. And I hope he keeps that momentum going, because I'm honestly underrating him right now. He played as a top 10 quarterback last year. He simply was a top 10 quarterback, and no one seems to give him his flowers for that. And I'm honestly disrespecting him too here at 12, but there's just a lot of young quarterbacks that are exciting. But Kirk Cousins has to be around your top 12.
100%. I really like Kirk Cousins, and I think he's got a lot to prove this year and a lot to show, because I think the Vikings have kind of been hinting that they're wanting to move off of him, but he keeps playing well enough to stay around, and I think he's going to continue to do so. But my number 12 right here is going to be Mr. Dak Prescott. I do think he'll have a down year this year, simply because of losing Kellen Moore. He's got to deal with Mike McCarthy for a year. They don't really have any wow receivers other than CeeDee Lamb. They lost Dalton Schultz. I do think Zeke does affect their red zone. I think the Cowboys offense was so efficient with Zeke in the red zone. It was really good on those 4th and 1s and everything. So I think he's due for a step down this year. But Dak Prescott is a really talented quarterback. He's athletic. He can make all the throws. But I am expecting a little bit of a down year from him this year.
Fair enough. I've got Dak Prescott at 11, and I don't think neither of us love Dak Prescott. I don't think we really ever have. He's never really elevated anything around him. He's always just kind of been met, and he's kind of been hyped up to be a top 5 guy. That's,
Yeah.
Josh Allen kind of carrying, putting the team on his back, but he's really just not ever really been that, and I don't think he ever will. And I think Cowboys fans are starting to realize that, and hopefully this is the last season with the Dak Prescott experience. It sounds harsh, but it's just hasn't worked, and hopefully the Mike McCarthy experience is over. I just have bad vibes about the Cowboys this year.
Yeah, 100%. Me too. That's why, why we have him right where. But yeah, he always has been hyped up to be something really special, and he's never really come through, and the Cowboys really haven't thrived under him. So, I mean, even Kellen Moore made what's his name, Cooper Rush, when look fantastic, and when his first 5 games starting. So I think Dak Prescott has been a little bit of a system quarterback, and way more hype than he deserves.
Losing Kellen Moore hurts.
Yeah, for sure. My number 11 right here is going to be Mr. Kirk Cousins. Like you said, he's just simply disrespected kind of every year. He's not an exciting guy, but Kirk Cousins goes out there and he plays a great brand of football, and he's such a stud, and he makes all the throws, and he does elevate that team. I think Kirk Cousins kind of reminds me of almost like a different version of a Phillip Rivers. He really reminds me of him. Just kind of that guy who's consistent, reliable, throwing over 4,000 yards every year, just doesn't really have the luck or the team to get him further, but I do think Kirk Cousins is disrespected, and he's a better quarterback than what people think.
For sure. And then now we're into the top 10, and this one might surprise you. I got him a lot higher, but that is Deshaun Watson at number 10. I just respect him as a quarterback. I always have since a rookie, really. Since I was watching his college national championship game the other day, actually. And it's just, he's always been such a good football player. Like, he's always been fun to watch on the field. He's always just been a good football player, and I've always respected him for that, at least. And I've always respected his game on the field, and I will say that I think Elijah Moore coming in will complement him well. You've seen all the highlights of him at training camp. It doesn't mean much, but I think that there's something to it. I think that the offense is going to start clicking well, and Deshaun Watson really does look good this year. Like, he's throwing some bombs, and Amari Cooper's great, and they've got some healthy weapons and maybe the best offensive line in football. So I'm pretty excited about the Browns, and I like Kevin Stefanski a lot.
I think that's generous, Dan. Maybe you should go get a massage with him sometime. Just kidding. No, I get it. Deshaun Watson is a top 10 quarterback when he's right. And I don't know. I had him a little lower because I just want to see it again. I really don't think he played very good last year. I mean, I think flat out it was, I mean, maybe this is the season where all the rust is off from not being around the game for a couple of years. But I sure hope so, because when Deshaun Watson was right in that rookie season, I remember being in high school and then everyone just being devastated because he was having the best rookie season. It was like, it was like something out of a storybook, and then he gets hurt. And I just remember everyone around was like, oh, it just felt like so devastated when that happened. But I'm rooting for Deshaun Watson. I mean, he's such a stud, and when he's right, he's right. But let's get into my number 10. I got him high. I'm hyped on him. Give me Danny Dimes here at number 10.
Wow.
which is very generous, but I like Danny Jones. He's a stud, and I think he's going to improve another year with Brian Daboll. I think you saw Josh Allen take those steps with Daboll as his OC, and I think Daniel Jones he took a big step last year, and I think he's going to take another big step this year, and he's playing better football. And Daniel Jones he's an underrated runner and an underrated passer, and he came out of Duke. He's a smart dude. I'm excited about Daniel Jones this year. I'm pretty high on him.
Yeah, I love that. Him and Dable had a really good connection, so I like
100%.
that. And that'll get into my number 9, and that's Kyler Murray. In my opinion, right now, this might be a hot take. I don't know. I think Kyler Murray is the most underrated player in the NFL right now. I don't get what the narrative about him is so negative for. Like, it's always just about him, Call of Duty, blah, blah, blah. I don't understand it. Kyler Murray is a great football player, and he really is electric. At the beginning of the season last year, even when he was having a down year, he was just pulling wins out of nothing with a terrible team, and he's a really good player. He's proven to be for years. So I think Kyler is the most slept on player in the NFL right now.
I really agree with that, actually. So, like, this super weird negative narrative around Kyler Murray that I just don't understand. And like you're saying, there's just, what has he done besides elevate his team? I mean, he hasn't been playing on a very good team. It's a pretty bad culture. The Cardinals have been, what was that player, like, how they're treated, and what was that called? They did like the Players Association did like that best to worst teams to
Yeah, it
play
was like a
for.
survey to see what front office and like what facility was run the best, and the Cardinals was the worst. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I feel like, there's this negative narrative around him. And he's really played a good brand of football, and I don't understand what he's done so wrong to not deserve the more praise, because he is a top 10 quarterback, and he elevates his team, and he is a fantastic. I mean, he's one of the most accurate deep balls in the league. He kind of reminds me of like a young Russell Wilson throwing the deep ball, and he's absolutely fast and a stud on his legs, and he makes people miss, and he's good in the pocket. So I don't know. I'm just confused. The Cardinals have never done anything to help Kyler Murray, but Kyler Murray's done a lot to help the Cardinals. So
He's definitely not being taken serious enough, and I'm excited to see him healthy.
Yeah, 100%. But I think where you have him is exactly right, because I have him here at number 9 too. I think that's about perfect. But yeah, I mean, it's just he has this weird bad stereotype around him if he's like a negative player in the Call of Duty, whatever that is. Every time Call of Duty is released, he plays it, and they never win the game or something. It's just stupid, because he's such a good football player, and he deserves more praise.
Yep. That'll go into my number 8 quarterback, and that is Aaron Rodgers, the new New York Jets quarterback. And I know it's low, it's disrespectful, it's low. The former
disrespectful,
like 2-time MVP. I know it's so low, but I envision a lot of these younger guys taking steps up, and I think Aaron Rodgers will just take a step back naturally because the Jets defense is so good and just how the Jets will play. I think Rodgers won't have to do as much, but Man, Rogers is going to be so prepared. Like you can just tell he's all in on the Jets and all in on building the team bonds and winning. And I love to see it. And I do know that he's going to be really prepared and he's going to be all in and trying to win a ring. And they're going to do everything they can, as they have shown with their spending and their drafts. So it's exciting. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a good year and a great connection with Garrett Wilson. So
Yeah, I'm higher on him. I'll talk about him a little bit more in a second, but Nick Rogers, yeah, I think he's in for a really good season. I think he's playing with one of the better teams of his career, so I'm excited to see it. But my number 8, I'm gonna have Mr. Lamar Jackson right here, which could be low for him too. Lamar Jackson's such a stud, and we didn't get to see him much last year, sadly, because of injury, and the Ravens still made the playoffs with Snoop Dogg at quarterback. Shout out to Snoop Dogg, Stanley's boy.
Huntley.
But he's Lamar Jackson's a stud. I mean, not it was like 2 years ago. He was the Madden cover, and did he win MVP? I can't remember if he's won MVP ever. He's in the running and stuff.
Yeah, Lamar's won MVP.
Oh, he has won MVP. Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, he's been at the highest level, and there's no reason he can't be. There's just guys who I think are going to take bigger steps, and I'm a little bit more excited for over Lamar Jackson, which my next guy I'll talk about here in a second. But yeah, there's a reason I have him a little bit lower, but no disrespect to Lamar because he's a stud.
Yeah, love Lamar, have him a little bit higher. I'm going to go to my number 7, and that's Trevor Lawrence. He's another reason I have Aaron Rodgers a little bit low, is I think Trevor's going to take a big step up, and I think he's going to be a star. I think he's going to take a step up into that star tier and make a big name for himself this year. And he has all the talent in the world and all the talent around him in the world, and a great situation and coach and a good connection with him. And I love the vibes there in Jacksonville, and they're going to do great things this year. And he's going to take a big step up.
Oh, for sure. Oh, just a little salty towards Trevor Lawrence. I do have him a little higher, but I'm a little salty towards him. I didn't even want to put him on the list because what he did to me hurt my soul, but makes me think higher of him though. My number 7 is going to be Jalen Hurts. This dude was an absolute stud last year. I mean, who won MVP last year? It was
Mahomes.
Mahomes, yeah, rightfully so. But Jalen Hurts was one step behind him. Yeah, he would have. If he would have won the Super Bowl, he would have won MVP because he was that. I mean, he went in there and he kind of. I remember from the previous season where the Eagles got blown out. I remember the playoff games. They looked like they did not belong in the playoffs 2 years ago, and they just got the shit kicked out of them by Tampa Bay. But then Jalen Hurts, Shane Steichen, they just come out of nowhere and they just have this amazing season. They get AJ Brown and they just figure it all out. They created a cheat code with the QB sneak. I mean, they had a fantastic season, and he's a top 7 quarterback for sure in my eyes. And I think there's no reason he can't repeat what he did last year, and the Eagles are going to be a lethal team. But Jalen Hurts is the reason for that.
I think he'll definitely be shooting up your rankings by next year. But
oh, for sure.
My number 6 is Lamar Jackson. I love him, and I'd like you said, I do need him to prove more to me. There's no excuses now. He's gotten paid. He's got the talent. He's got a great coach around him. He's got great defense. He's paid. There's no excuses now. You got to go put up or shut up because he's got everything around him. He's been saying that he wants stuff, and he's got stuff now. He's got everything he can need, and he's got to put up and show that he's worth it because they put a big investment into him, and he's a great player, and I love him, and he's got to go play. And if he gets hurt at the end of the year, he's got to play through it. That's just how NFL quarterbacks have to play football. So I'm interested to see how it plays out, but I love Lamar, and he's a beast.
Yeah, especially getting that big paycheck, you gotta show us why you deserve it, and I think he will. I don't think there's any reason he can't. The talent's all there, the team's all there. I'm excited for Lamar this year. Getting into my 6 is going to be Trevor right here. Man, is he going to be something special? You can just feel it with Trevor Lawrence. He is a generational talent. He goes out there, he makes every single throw, and he reminds me a lot of Peyton Manning because Peyton Manning, his first couple seasons was nothing like that, blew the doors off of you, but he was resilient. He threw a lot of interceptions. He wasn't afraid to make any throw, and that's kind of what Trevor Lawrence proved in that playoff game against the Chargers. Is he went out there and he was god awful in the first half. I mean, he threw 4 interceptions in the first half, but he came back that second half and he was not afraid to throw the ball. and he was slinging it all over the field. And I mean, he threw for 4 touchdowns in the second half. I mean, with no interceptions. It was phenomenal watching that. That's kind of when I really realized how special Trevor Lawrence is. And he's got a great coach, Doug Peterson, that's going to help him improve even more. And he's got the talent around him. And the Jaguars are a scary team to look out for here.
I like that you have him at 6 because he is the guy that has the upside to take the step up to be the next Herbert, Burrow, Josh Allen player. So I like that. And at number 5, I have Jalen Hurts. I mean, man, what a year he had last year. It doesn't really get much better than what he did last year on the ground and in the air. He had a perfect Super Bowl despite a loss. He literally, like, I don't remember one bad play he had. He was great, and he was like that all season and all playoffs. He was just the most prepared player every game. He's the most prepared player in the NFL, the hardest worker. You can tell it shows. He's developed so good, and I respect Jalen Hurts so much.
Yeah, preach. I think he'll probably be shooting up my rankings next year when he has 2 just fantastic seasons, because it's coming. My number 5 right here is going to be Mr. Aaron Rodgers. And this dude's just one season removed from an MVP season, and you can tell he's hungry. It's kind of like a Tom Brady situation for me. He's leaving the team. He wants to show that I'm going to go win a Super Bowl with another team. I'm that dude. I'm that good. I'm a generational talent, which of course he is. And there's just no reason I see a drop off. I do think the Jets defense is going to be good. I don't think that's going to hurt him. I think he's got one of the best receiving cores he's ever had. I think he's got one of the better offensive lines. I mean, there's just really not a weak spot on that Jets team. And I think Aaron Rodgers is just going to thrive with them, and they scare me, man. I think they're a Super Bowl team, and they do scare me this year.
Excited to watch Aaron Rodgers. At number 4, I've got your boy Justin Herbert. And I'll be the first to admit he was not in this tier last year, and he's gonna have to take a step up. I know he was hurt, and there's not the best situation. They've got a much better coach, and I know that he will take a step up, and that they will take a step up on offense, and they're going to be a pretty electric offense and putting up a lot of numbers every week. They've got Eckler out of the backfield and 3 really good receivers. So I think that the Chargers are a dark horse to, obviously we say this every year, but be a Super Bowl contender if they're healthy. And I'm excited for Herbert.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very fair ranking for Herbert. I mean, he wasn't in that tier last year. I mean, he was just dumping the ball off, and he was not himself last year. I mean, somehow he still put up like 4,900 yards. But I mean, it was a lot of checkdowns, and the team wasn't themselves last year. Injuries plagued them, and I mean, Herbert was playing with broken rib cartilage and a torn labrum in his left shoulder, and I think that did kind of prove something to me with him, though, is he's got that mentality. I mean, he didn't miss a game. Even when he broke his ribs, he took one play off because they made him. They took him off the field, and he went back in there. And you could see, I mean, just the pain that was in his eyes as he was out there playing. And he went next play and throws like a 40-yard dart to DeAndre Carter. And that was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. But of course, he's my dude. I'm going to have him a little higher. So my number 4 right here is going to be Joe Burrow, which, no disrespect to Joe Burrow. He really played, he's really probably the 3rd or 2nd best quarterback last year. That Bengals offense just is so lethal, so dynamic. They've just built such a good culture there. And Joe Burrow is just everything you want in a quarterback. He's smart. He can make every throw. He can move when he needs to. But I think the top 3 quarterbacks are just a little bit different with their athleticism and their arms. And Joe Burrow is everything. He reminds me of like Aaron Rodgers. He's everything you want. He's just kind of that Aaron Rodgers type guy to me. But the next 3 for me just are, unique sizes, unique talents. But no disrespect to Joe Burrow, because I think he's one of the best quarterbacks, and he will be for the next decade.
Yeah, and I think we're both projecting that Justin Herbert will take the jump up into this tier with Burrow and Allen. And at number 3, I do have Josh Allen, just right ahead of Herbert. I didn't like at all. I've talked about it all offseason on our podcast. I didn't like how Josh Allen ended his season at all. It was just careless football, and I expect a lot more. And if he wants to be better than Joe Burrow, he's going to have to play less carefree and play better. And I think they'll win more playoff games if he plays better, and if the Bills ask him to do less, and if they can run the ball better and their defense can play better. I think that Josh Allen needs to play better, and he needs to prove that he's better than Joe Burrow, and he didn't last year.
Yeah, preach 100%. I mean, he was disappointing last season, and it's the reason, it's just, we have a little bit of a sour taste because the season didn't end good with him and he played careless football and it wasn't Josh Allen football, but I'm expecting a bounce back season from him. But right here at number 3, I'm gonna have my dude, Justin Herbert. And he didn't play in this tier last year, but we've seen him play in this tier and he's just in this top 3 category, in my opinion. Totally my opinion, but these guys who are, 6'6", can run the ball, can make any kind of alien throw. I mean, you name a spot of the field, right side of the hash on the 30, cross field, to the opponent's, 25, it's just amazing kind of throws that these next guys have. And I mean, I project Herbert to take a big step this year. He has the receiver talent. He finally has the offensive coordinator that we've all been waiting for. We get rid of the crutch, and we'll see if it's a crutch. I mean, Joe Lombardi felt like a crutch to this team. Felt like we were running the same plays, the same, just not catering to who Justin Herbert is. And I just, Chargers are my team. This is my favorite player ever. I project something really special this year for Justin Herbert.
Yeah, I call this tier the alien tier because these 4 quarterbacks, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Patrick Mahomes, are just complete aliens and nothing like we've ever seen before.
They're just a different brand of football, and they're just so unique all in their own ways.
They defy all the odds. And number 2, I've got the boy Joe Burrow. Man, just so special. The confidence, the swagger, the coolness, the calmness. He's that dude. He's proven to be that dude, and he's just so good. And last year, he was the second best quarterback in the NFL. If you want to argue with me, I will argue with you all day long. He was the second best quarterback in the NFL, coming from someone that is a pretty big Josh Allen fan. Joe Burrow was so good last year, and Herbert, Allen, Hurts, Jackson, Rodgers, Lawrence, they're all going to have to come and take Burrow's crown to be the number 2. I mean, unless you guys want to take the Mahomes crown, but I don't know if anyone can take that right now. But I think Burrow is holding that number 2 crown, and I think everyone else is going to have to take it and earn it before Burrow loses it, because he was so good last year, just so good. He was perfect from week 2 on. He was perfect.
I 100% agree. And this is why because Joe Burrow was the second best quarterback last year. I mean, you could argue Jalen Hurts, what could have been the second best just with the style of play and how the Eagles did. But Joe Burrow really was the second best quarterback last year. But I'm projecting, for this next 2023 season, and that's why I'm going to have Josh Allen. I think he's going to have a bounce back year. I think he's got a lot to prove. He was playing a careless brand of football, but this guy is just, you're not going to find a guy like Josh Allen, who's 6'6", can run almost 4.4, 4.5 speed. He's hurdling dudes. He's got the biggest arm in the NFL. I mean, this dude will make any kind of throw you ask him to do, and he does it with ease. And so I just think he's a different kind of player. He's a more unique size and skill set, and we've seen MVP Josh Allen, and I think we're going to see that again. I don't love how the Bills spent this offseason. I would have loved to see them bring in a little bit better wide receiver 2 for Josh Allen, but I do expect him to take a big leap this year and take that number 2 crown back.
Yeah, I've been talking negatively about Allen a lot, and it's not completely fair to him. He's so special, dude. Like, I don't think we'll ever see a quarterback completely carry a team and offense as much as Josh Allen does. I don't think people realize it every week watching the Bills. Like, the things that they ask him to do week in and week out, and he just does it so casually. It's just incredible. He's really one of the most durable, athletic quarterbacks we'll ever see in football. So
yeah, I mean, he's their best runner and he's their best passer, and he really is. I mean, the weight of that offense is on Josh Allen's shoulder every single week, and he's winning them games, but it kind of seemed like he got away from himself a little bit last year, which was disappointing. I mean, he led the league in interceptions, I think like 14 or something, and it was just a careless brand of football. But there's no reason this dude can't have a bounce back season, because he's in this, like you said, this alien tier. He's that special.
And then leading off the alien tier, we both have number one, Patrick Mahomes. Everyone else should in the world.
Mhm.
Just the best quarterback in the world, in my opinion, will go down as the best of all time. He's just so great, and he will get those Super Bowls. They'll come every year he plays. He's going to compete, and where he's a Charger fan, I'm a Bronco fan. We felt the wrath of Patrick
Mhm.
Mahomes for way too long, and just I don't think people understand how hurt Patrick Mahomes was at the end of last season, and he literally just willed his way to the Super Bowl over some really good teams. Like the AFC was so loaded last year, and he didn't care. He just willed his way to the Super Bowl, and it's incredible stuff, man. Legendary.
Yeah, it's something that even, coming from a generation where we grew up watching Tom Brady, this is just a different style of football. And it's just, he is an alien. It doesn't make any sense what he goes out there and does week to week. It's frustrating and it's maddening. Um, and yeah, like you said, him and Brady are going to be 1A, 1B, however you want to look at it, for the best football player ever. You know, Patrick Mahomes, what is he? He's still young. He's got two rings already. There's no reason that he's not going to go and compete every single year. Every single year he's been the starter for the Chiefs, they've gone to the AFC Championship game, and that is just a unique, so hard, so underrated. And it's Patrick Mahomes, and that trio is just special. But I think Patrick Mahomes is going to be successful wherever he's at because he's just that kind of guy, and he's that different, and he's just an alien. And it hurts. It sucks, because as a Charger fan, it's like, oh my gosh, we got our franchise guy. Like, we went from Philip Rivers to Justin Herbert, two amazing guys, but it was like that generation's like, we have a chance, and that's just like, we got to go and beat Patrick Mahomes every year somehow. We gotta beat him in the regular season. We gotta go through the playoffs and get through Patrick Mahomes before we can ever get a ring. And it hurts. It sucks that we have a guy like that just immediately right after Tom Brady, is in his twilight years. We have another supervillain, and it's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, we could literally sit here and drool about Mahomes all night. Like it just makes me depressed, honestly. But yeah, he's the king. No one's gonna take that throne unless Josh Allen or Burrow do some crazy things this year and win a Super Bowl MVP. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning into this one. It was really fun. Love doing this quarterback rankings, and we might have to do different positions, but definitely let us know who had the better rankings. Make sure to leave a like on the video, and yeah, hope you had fun, Josh.
Yes, sir. Loved it. Yep. Make sure you give us comments, like, share, subscribe, follow us on all platforms. We'd love to hear some feedback.
All right. Peace, guys.